Please, sir, I can't find my mother." The words came from somewhere below Marcus Sullivan's chest. He looked down. A 5-year-old girl stood there, tears streaming down her face, clutching a worn, stuffed elephant like her life depended on it. Everyone in the mall had been avoiding him all day. His tattoos, his size, his leather vest. Mothers pulled their children away. Security guards watched his every move. But this tiny girl barely reaching his hip had chosen him. The scariest man in the building. Because she had no one else. What happened next would change both their lives forever. Before we continue, please subscribe to our channel and follow this story to the very end. Leave a comment telling us which city you're watching from. I'd love to see how far this story has traveled. Now back to the story. Marcus Bear Sullivan had been called many things in his 48 years. Monster, criminal, thug. The kind of man mothers warned their daughters about. The kind of man who made grown men cross the street. He'd earned every one of those names. 20 years with the Iron Brotherhood Motorcycle Club had left marks on his body and his soul that would never fully heal. The tattoos covering his arms told stories of violence, of loyalty bought with blood of nights he could never take back. But that was before. Before he'd walked away. Before he'd spent 5 years trying to become someone different. Today Marcus was just a businessman. He'd just finished a meeting with a parts supplier for his motorcycle restoration shop. Good prices on chrome. Fair terms. Honest work. It felt strange. Good, but strange. The mall was crowded with holiday shoppers, families everywhere, children laughing, the smell of cinnamon and coffee from the food court, and everywhere Marcus walked, people moved away. A young mother saw him coming and yanked her toddler so hard the child nearly fell. An elderly couple changed direction mid-step. A group of teenage boys whispered and pointed, trying to act tough, but their fear showed in their eyes. Marcus kept his face neutral. He was used to it. Didn't mean it stopped hurting. His phone buzzed. A text from his shop manager. New customer asking about the vintage Harley. Interested buyer. Call when you can. Marcus smiled beneath his beard. That Harley had been in his shop for 3 months. Finding it a good home would feel like, "Please, sir." The voice was so small, so fragile that Marcus almost didn't hear it over the mall noise. "Please, sir, I can't find my mother." He stopped, looked down. A little girl, maybe 5 years old. Dark hair in messy pigtails that someone had tried their best to make neat. A faded purple dress that had been washed too many times. Small sneakers with a hole in the left toe. And tears. So many tears streaming down her round cheeks. She was clutching a stuffed elephant that had seen better days. One ear was hanging by a thread. The gray fur was worn smooth from years of love. "Hey there," Marcus said, his deep voice dropping to barely a whisper. He crouched down slowly, making himself smaller, less threatening. "What's your name, sweetheart?" "Sophia." Her voice trembled. "Sophia Vasquez." "Okay, Sophia. I'm Marcus. Can you tell me what happened?" Sophia's bottom lip quivered. "Mommy went into the bathroom. She told me to wait right outside. But she's been in there a really long time and—" Her voice cracked. "And I can hear her crying, Mr. Marcus. Mommy's crying and she won't come out and I don't know what to do." Marcus felt something shift in his chest. Something he hadn't felt in years. "Which bathroom, Sophia?" "Can you show me?" She nodded and grabbed his massive hand with her tiny fingers. The contrast was almost comical, his scarred, calloused hand swallowing her small one completely. But Sophia didn't seem afraid. She held on tight and started walking. Marcus let her lead, his mind racing. A crying mother. A scared child. Whatever was happening here, it wasn't good. They passed a jewelry store, a shoe shop, a children's clothing boutique. People stared at them, the enormous tattooed biker being led by a tiny girl clutching a stuffed elephant. Some people looked concerned. Others pulled out their phones, probably ready to call security. One woman actually gasped. Marcus ignored them all. He had bigger problems. Sophia stopped outside a restroom near the back of the mall. "In there?" she whispered. "Mommy's in there." Marcus could hear it now, muffled sobbing coming from inside, the kind of crying that came from somewhere deep, somewhere broken. He looked around for help. A store employee was folding shirts at a nearby display. "Excuse me, miss," Marcus called out, his voice making the young woman jump. "This little girl's mother needs help. She's in the restroom and she's very upset. Could you—" The employee took one look at Marcus's tattoos, his size, his leather vest. Her face went pale. "I'm not authorized to leave my section," she stammered, already backing away. "You should call security." "I'm not asking you to leave your section. I'm asking you to check on a woman who's clearly in distress while her 5-year-old daughter stands out here terrified." But the employee was already gone, disappearing into the back of the store. Marcus sighed heavily. He knelt back down to Sophia's level. "How long has your mom been in there, sweetheart?" "I don't know." Sophia sniffled. "A really long time. Maybe forever." Marcus looked at the restroom door. He couldn't go in there, he'd terrify whatever woman was inside. But he couldn't just leave either, not with Sophia looking up at him with those big, trusting eyes. He made a decision. Marcus sat down on the floor, his back against the wall next to the restroom entrance. His leather vest creaked as he settled. His heavy boots stretched out in front of him. Sophia stared at him, confused. "What are you doing, Mr. Marcus?" "I'm going to sit right here," he said gently. "And I'm going to talk to your mom. You can sit next to me if you want. Or you can stand. Whatever makes you feel better." Sophia hesitated for just a moment. Then she sat down beside him, close enough that their shoulders almost touched. She clutched her elephant tighter. Marcus raised his voice slightly, keeping it calm and steady. "Ma'am, your daughter Sophia is out here. She's worried about you. My name is Marcus, and I'm just going to sit here for a bit, if that's okay." The sobbing inside stopped abruptly. A shaky voice came through the door. Who are you? How do you know my daughter's name?" "She told me. She came and found me because she heard you crying. She's a very brave little girl." Silence. Then more quietly, "I told her to wait outside. I didn't want her to see me like this." "She didn't see anything," Marcus assured her. "She just heard you through the door. She's worried, that's all." More silence. Marcus waited. He was good at waiting. 20 years in the MC had taught him patience, among other things. Finally, the woman spoke again. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. This is so embarrassing. Everything fell apart today and I couldn't." Her voice broke again. "Nothing to be embarrassed about," Marcus said. "We all have days like that. You don't understand." The woman's voice was barely a whisper now, but Marcus could hear every word. "I lost my job this morning. My second job, the night shift at the warehouse. They said I missed too many days, but I only missed them because I couldn't find anyone to watch Sophia, and I can't afford real childcare, and now I have nothing." Sophia squeezed her elephant tighter. "Mommy," and then, the woman continued, her words tumbling out like water from a broken dam. "And then I got papers today, legal papers. My ex-husband is suing me for custody of Sophia. He's saying I'm an unfit mother. He's saying I can't provide for her. And maybe he's right. Maybe he's right because I can't even keep a job and I can't pay my rent. And I don't know what I'm going to do." The sobbing started again, harder this time. Marcus closed his eyes. He knew this story. He'd seen it play out dozens of times in his old life, women trapped desperate fighting battles they couldn't win against men with money and power and lawyers. "What's your name?" he asked. "Elena. Elena Vasquez." "Elena, I'm going to tell you something, and I want you to really hear it. Are you listening?" A pause. Then, "Yes. Losing a job doesn't make you a bad mother. Not being able to afford fancy childcare doesn't make you a bad mother. Crying in a bathroom because life got too heavy, that doesn't make you a bad mother either. You know what makes a bad mother? Giving up. Walking away. And you're still here. You're still fighting." Sophia was looking up at Marcus now, her tears slowing. "You don't know me," Elena said, her voice thick with emotion. "You don't know anything about my life." "You're right. I don't. But I know your daughter came to find help when you needed it. A 5-year-old girl walked up to the scariest-looking guy in this mall because she loves her mother that much. That tells me everything I need to know about what kind of mom you are." Silence again, but different this time. Less broken. "Why are you helping us?" Elena asked. "You could have just walked away. Everyone else did. I saw them through the door, people walking past, pretending they didn't hear anything." Marcus thought about that question. Really thought about it. "Because I've spent most of my life being the kind of man people run from," he said finally. "The kind of man who made things worse, not better. But I'm trying to be different now. And maybe," he paused, looking down at Sophia, "maybe today I can be the kind of man a scared little girl wasn't afraid to ask for help." A long moment passed. Then the bathroom door opened slowly. Elena Vasquez stepped out. She was younger than Marcus expected, early 30s, maybe. Dark hair pulled back in a ponytail. Eyes red and swollen from crying. She was wearing what looked like a uniform plain blue pants, a faded work shirt. Her hands were rough, the hands of someone who worked hard. She looked at Marcus, really looked at him, and he could see her taking in the tattoos, the size, the leather vest. He saw the moment of fear flash across her face. But then Sophia jumped up and ran to her mother. "Mommy, Mommy, Mr. Marcus helped me find you. He sat on the floor with me." Elena wrapped her arms around her daughter, holding her close, her eyes never leaving Marcus's face. "Thank you," she whispered. Marcus stood up slowly, his knees protesting. He wasn't as young as he used to be. "You should get your daughter something to eat," he said. "There's a food court just around the corner. Take a few minutes. Breathe. Things always look a little better after some food." Elena laughed, a broken, bitter sound. "I can't even afford that. The papers I got today, my ex-husband's lawyers, it's going to cost everything I have just to respond. Money I don't have." Marcus reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out his wallet. He took out 2 $20 bills and held them out to her. Elena's face flushed with shame. "I can't take that. I'm not a charity case." "It's not charity," Marcus said firmly. "It's one person helping another. No different than what Sophia did when she came to find me. She needed help. She asked for it. There's no shame in that." Elena stared at the money for a long moment. Then slowly she reached out and took it. "I'll pay you back," she said. "I swear I will." "Don't worry about it." Marcus reached into another pocket and pulled out something else, a silver medallion on a thin chain. The metal was worn smooth from years of handling. On one side was an angel with spread wings, on the other a motorcycle wheel. "What is this?" Elena asked, taking it from him. "It was given to me a long time ago," Marcus said. "When I was part of a motorcycle club. It's supposed to remind you that you're not alone even when it feels like you are. I want you to have it." Elena's eyes filled with fresh tears. I don't understand. Why would you give this to a stranger? Because I think you need it more than I do right now. Sophia tugged at Marcus's sleeve. He looked down at her. Mr. Marcus, are you an angel? The question caught him off guard. He let out a small laugh. No, sweetheart. I'm about as far from an angel as you can get. But you have angel wings on your necklace, and you helped us. Mommy says angels help people. Marcus didn't know what to say to that. Luckily, he didn't have to. A sharp voice cut through the moment. Is there a problem here? A mall security guard had finally shown up. A young guy, maybe 25, with his hand resting on his radio, like he was ready to call for backup. No problem, Marcus said evenly. Just helping a mother and her daughter. The guard looked at Elena. Ma'am, is this man bothering you? Elena straightened up, pulling Sophia closer. No, he's not bothering us. He's the only person in this entire mall who stopped to help when I needed it. The guard seemed uncertain. He looked at Marcus's tattoos, his vest, his size. Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to— He's leaving, Elena interrupted. We're all leaving. Thank you for your concern, but it's not needed. She took Sophia's hand and started walking toward the food court. Then she stopped and looked back at Marcus. Thank you, she said again. For everything. Marcus nodded. Take care of yourself, Elena. And take care of that little girl. She's something special. He watched them walk away, the exhausted mother and the brave little girl hand in hand. Something in his chest ached in a way he couldn't explain. He turned to leave, but Sophia suddenly broke free from her mother and ran back to him. Before he could react, she threw her arms around his legs in a fierce hug. Thank you, Mr. Marcus, she whispered. Thank you for helping my mommy. Then she was gone, running back to Elena, her pigtails bouncing. Marcus stood there for a long moment, watching until they disappeared around the corner. He couldn't know it then, but his life had just changed forever. The security guard was still watching him, hand still on his radio. I'm leaving, Marcus said quietly. You can relax. He walked toward the exit, his heavy boots echoing on the tile floor. People still moved out of his way. Mothers still pulled their children close. Nothing had changed. Except everything had. Outside, the afternoon sun was starting to dip toward the horizon. Marcus climbed onto his motorcycle, a vintage Harley-Davidson he'd rebuilt himself, and sat there for a moment. His hand went to his pocket, reaching for the medallion that was no longer there. He'd carried that medallion for 20 years. Through the good times and the bad. Through the violence and the redemption. It had been his reminder that change was possible, that even the worst men could become better. Now it was with Elena and Sophia. And somehow that felt right. His phone buzzed again. Another text from his shop manager. Customer really interested in the Harley. Says he can pay cash. Should I set up a meeting? Marcus typed back. Tomorrow. I need some time to think. He started the motorcycle, feeling the familiar rumble beneath him. The engine's growl had always felt like home. But as he rode away from the mall, he couldn't stop thinking about Sophia's question. Are you an angel, gnome? He wasn't an angel. He was a man with too much blood on his hands, too many sins that could never be washed away. But maybe, just maybe, he could start making up for some of them. 2 weeks later, Marcus was elbow deep in a carburetor when his phone rang. He wiped the grease on his jeans and answered. Hello? Is this Marcus Sullivan? The voice was female familiar somehow. Yeah, this is Marcus. Who's calling? A pause. Then, this is Elena. Elena Vasquez, from the mall. Marcus set down his wrench. Elena, are you okay? Is Sophia okay? Sophia's fine. She asks about you every day, actually. Calls you Mr. Bear now. I'm not sure why. Despite himself, Marcus smiled. Kids are funny like that. What can I do for you? Another pause. Longer this time. When Elena spoke again, her voice was shaking. He filed for emergency custody, my ex-husband. His lawyer submitted papers yesterday saying I'm an unfit mother, that Sophia isn't safe with me. They're using everything, the lost jobs, the apartment even. She stopped. Even the mall. They found out about it somehow. They're saying I left my daughter unsupervised with a strange man. They're saying I endangered her. Marcus's grip on the phone tightened. That's a lie. You were 20 feet away. Sophia came to find me on her own because I know it's a lie. But they have lawyers, Marcus. Expensive lawyers. And I have nothing. I don't even have enough money to hire someone to respond to their motion. If I don't respond in 2 weeks, they win by default. I lose Sophia. Her voice cracked completely. I don't know why I'm calling you. I don't know what I expect you to do. I didn't know who else to call. I don't have anyone. Marcus closed his eyes. He thought about the life he'd lived. The violence, the crime, the years of making everything worse. He thought about all the people he'd hurt, all the families he'd torn apart. And he thought about a little girl who wasn't afraid to ask a monster for help. Elena, he said slowly. I'm going to ask you something, and I need you to answer honestly. Can you do that? Yes. Your ex-husband, was he violent? Silence. Then very quietly, yes. Did he hurt you? Yes. Did he ever hurt Sophia? He never hit her, but he scared her. A lot. She still has nightmares about his voice when he was angry. Marcus took a deep breath. Okay. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to give me your address. Tomorrow morning I'm going to pick you and Sophia up, and we're going to see a lawyer I know. His name is James Chen, and he's one of the best family attorneys in the state. And you're not going to worry about the cost because I'm taking care of it. Marcus, I can't ask you to. You're not asking, I'm offering. There's a difference. Why? Elena's voice broke again. Why would you do this for us? You don't even know us. Marcus looked around his shop, at the motorcycles he'd rebuilt, at the business he'd created from nothing, at the life he'd made after walking away from everything he'd ever known. Because I spent 20 years being part of the problem, he said. 20 years making things worse for people like you. This is my chance to be part of the solution. Let me do this, Elena. Please. A long silence. Then so quiet he almost didn't hear it. Okay. Marcus wrote down her address. They agreed on a time 9 in the morning after she dropped Sophia at kindergarten. After he hung up, Marcus sat in the silence of his shop for a long time. He knew what he was getting into. He knew the risks. His past was a minefield, one wrong step, and everything could explode. If Elena's ex-husband's lawyers dug deep enough, they'd find things that could destroy not just Marcus's testimony, but Elena's entire case. Phoenix. Albuquerque. That night in 2009, the memories pressed against him like physical weight. But then he remembered Sophia's face, her brave voice asking for help, her tiny hand in his. He picked up his phone and dialed James Chen's number. James, it's Marcus. Yeah, I know it's late. Listen, I need a favor, a big one. The next morning would change everything. Marcus didn't know yet just how much. He didn't know that Elena's ex-husband had connections to people from Marcus's past. He didn't know that old enemies were watching, waiting for a chance to destroy him. He didn't know that protecting Elena and Sophia would force him to confront the darkest chapters of his own history. All he knew was that a little girl had asked him for help. And for the first time in his life, Marcus Sullivan was going to be the hero instead of the villain. He just hoped he was strong enough to survive it. Marcus pulled up to Elena's apartment complex at exactly 9 o'clock. The building was old, the kind of place where landlords stopped caring decades ago. But he noticed the small touches: a potted plant by Elena's door, a welcome mat that had been recently cleaned. She was trying. That's what mattered. Elena came out before he could knock. She looked different today. Her hair was down, and she was wearing a simple blouse that she'd clearly ironed that morning. Her hands were shaking. "I almost called to cancel," she admitted. 3 times. "But you didn't." "No, I didn't." She took a deep breath. "Sophia asked about you this morning. She wanted to know if Mr. Bear was coming to help Mommy again." Marcus felt that strange ache in his chest. "What did you tell her?" "I told her yes. I told her Mr. Bear was going to help us fight the bad guys." Elena's voice cracked. "I hope I wasn't lying to her." "You weren't." They drove in silence for the first few minutes. Marcus could feel Elena's tension radiating off her like heat. She kept twisting her hands in her lap, kept glancing at him like she was waiting for him to change his mind. "Tell me about him," Marcus said finally. "Your ex-husband." Elena stiffened. "David, what do you want to know?" "Everything. The more I know, the better James can prepare." She was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was flat, like she was reciting facts about someone else's life. "We met when I was 22. He was charming, successful. He owned 3 properties by the time he was 30. My parents thought I'd hit the jackpot." She laughed bitterly. "Everyone did." "When did it change?" "After Sophia was born. That's when I first saw it. The rage, over nothing, a dish in the sink, dinner 5 minutes late, a crying baby." Elena's hands tightened into fists. "He never hit me where it would show. He was smart about it." Marcus's jaw clenched. "Did you report it?" "Twice. The first time they took photos. The second time they told me I should think about what I was doing to my family. One of the officers went to high school with David." Her voice dropped. That's when I knew I had to get out on my own. "How long ago?" 2 years. Sophia was 3. I packed 1 bag in the middle of the night and walked out. No plan, no money, just my daughter and a stuffed elephant she refused to leave behind. Marcus thought about that. A mother with nothing walking into the darkness with a toddler in her arms. That took more courage than most people would ever understand. And now he wants her back. He doesn't want her. Elena's voice hardened. "He wants to hurt me. Sophia is just a weapon to him. She always has been." James Chen's office was in a modest building downtown. Nothing fancy but clean and professional. Marcus had known James for 15 years back, from the days when the MC needed a lawyer who wouldn't ask too many questions. James had gone straight long before Marcus did, but they'd stayed in touch. James was waiting for them in the lobby. He was a slim man in his 50s, with silver-streaked hair and kind eyes that had seen too much of the world's ugliness. "Marcus," James shook his hand firmly. "Been a while." "Too long. James, this is Elena Vasquez. Elena, this is James Chen. He's going to help you." Elena shook James's hand nervously. "Thank you for seeing me. I know Marcus said you'd help, but I want you to know I don't have any money right now. But I'll pay you back. Every cent. I swear I will." James smiled gently. "Let's worry about winning first. Paying comes later. Marcus has vouched for you, and that's good enough for me." They went into James's office. Elena told her story again: the marriage, the abuse, the escape, the custody papers. James took notes, asked questions, his expression growing more serious with each answer. "Preston and Whitmore," James said when Elena mentioned her ex-husband's lawyers. They're aggressive, expensive. They don't take cases they don't think they can win. Elena's face fell. So it's hopeless. I didn't say that. James leaned forward. They're good at intimidation. They're good at making people give up before the fight even starts. But they're not unbeatable. They just want you to think they are. What do we do? First, we respond to the emergency motion. We have 12 days. Second, we build your case. Character witnesses documentation of David's abuse proof that Sophia is thriving in your care. James paused. There's one thing that concerns me, though. What? They're going to dig. That's what Preston and Whitmore does. They'll investigate everyone connected to you. Your friends, your neighbors, anyone who might testify on your behalf. His eyes flickered to Marcus. Everyone. The weight of those words hung in the air. Marcus knew what James was really saying. If David's lawyers dug into Marcus's past, really dug, they would find things. Terrible things. Things that could destroy not just Marcus, but Elena's entire case. I can handle it, Marcus said. Can you? James's voice was gentle, but serious. Because if there's anything at all that could be used against you, I need to know now. Marcus thought about Phoenix, about Albuquerque, about that night in 2009 when everything went wrong. There are things, he admitted, from my old life, things I'm not proud of. Elena looked at him, confusion and fear mixing in her eyes. What kind of things? The kind that stay buried, the kind that... Marcus's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen, and his blood ran cold. A text from an unknown number. 3 words. Remember, Phoenix Bear. Marcus stared at the message. His hand was steady, but inside everything had gone still and quiet the way it used to before violence. Marcus, Elena's voice seemed far away. What's wrong? Nothing. He shoved the phone in his pocket. Just work stuff. James, let's focus on Elena's case. What do you need from her? James studied Marcus for a moment, clearly sensing something was off, but he let it go. Documentation, James said. Medical records from any hospital visits during the marriage. Police reports, even if nothing came of them. Financial records showing David's failure to pay child support. And witnesses anyone who can speak to your character and your relationship with Sophia. Elena nodded, pulling out a worn folder from her bag. I kept everything. Every bruise he gave me I photographed. Every time I called the police I wrote down dates and names. Every check he didn't send I documented. James took the folder, his eyebrows rising as he flipped through it. You've been preparing for this. I knew it would come someday. I just didn't know when. For the first time since Marcus had met her, he saw something besides fear in Elena's eyes. He saw steel. They spent 2 more hours going over details. By the time they left, Elena looked exhausted, but hopeful. Do you really think we can win? She asked, as they walked to Marcus's truck. James is the best, and you're stronger than you know. Elena stopped walking. Marcus, what was that text, the one that made you go pale? He considered lying. It would be easier. Cleaner. Keep her out of it. But she deserved the truth. At least part of it. Someone from my past, he said. Someone who doesn't want me helping you. Why would anyone care about that? I don't know yet, but I'm going to find out. That night, Marcus sat alone in his shop. The lights dim, a bottle of whiskey untouched on his workbench. He stared at his phone at that message. Remember Phoenix Bear? Of course he remembered. He remembered everything. Phoenix 2009. A rival MC had crossed a line, hurt one of their own. Marcus had led the retaliation. That was the night he earned his reputation. The night he became the man everyone feared. The night he'd done things that still woke him in cold sweats. His phone buzzed again. Same unknown number. Walk away from the woman and her kid. Last warning. Marcus's fingers tightened on the phone. Part of him, the old part, the part he'd tried to bury, wanted to find whoever was sending these messages and handle it the way he used to handle things. But that wasn't who he was anymore. That couldn't be who he was anymore. He dialed a number from memory. Ray, it's Marcus. Yeah, I know it's late. I need a favor. Someone's sending me threats using an unknown number. Can you trace it? Ray Thompson had been with the Iron Brotherhood for 30 years. He'd gone legitimate, too, running a security consulting firm. If anyone could find out who was behind those texts, it was Ray. What kind of threats? Ray asked. The kind that mention Phoenix. A low whistle. That's old business, Bear. Who'd be digging that up now? That's what I need to find out. And Ray, keep this quiet. I don't want anyone else knowing until I know what we're dealing with. You got it. I'll call you tomorrow. Marcus hung up and stared at the ceiling. Somewhere out there, someone was trying to destroy the fragile new life he'd built. Someone who knew his secrets. Someone who wanted him to abandon Elena and Sophia. He thought about that little girl in the mall. Her brave voice, her trusting eyes. Are you an angel? No. He wasn't an angel. He was a man with too many sins to count. But he wasn't going to run. Not this time. 3 days later, Marcus picked up Sophia from Elena's neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, while Elena worked her afternoon shift at the hospital. It had become their routine, Marcus helping where he could, fitting himself into their lives like a puzzle piece that somehow belonged. Sophia chattered the entire drive about her kindergarten class, about her friend Maria, about the picture she'd drawn of a bear with angel wings. That's you, Mr. Bear, she said proudly. You have wings because you help people. Marcus didn't know what to say to that, so he just nodded and listened. When they got to Elena's apartment, he made Sophia a peanut butter sandwich and helped her with her letters while they waited for Elena to come home. Mr. Bear, Sophia asked, looking up from her paper. Yeah, sweetheart. Is my daddy a bad man? The question hit Marcus like a punch to the gut. He set down his coffee carefully. Why do you ask that? Mommy cries sometimes when she talks about him. And I remember when he yelled. Her small voice got even smaller. He yelled really loud, Mr. Bear. It was scary. Marcus knelt down to her level the way he had that first day in the mall. Some people don't know how to control their anger, he said carefully. That doesn't mean you did anything wrong. And it doesn't mean your mommy did anything wrong. Sometimes grown-ups have problems that kids can't understand. But I want you to know something important. What? You're safe now. Your mommy is going to make sure you're always safe, and I'm going to help her. Okay? Sophia nodded solemnly. Then she reached out and hugged him, her small arms barely making it around his neck. I love you, Mr. Bear. Marcus froze. Those 3 words hit him harder than any punch ever had, harder than any threat, harder than anything. I love you too, Sophia, he heard himself say, and he meant it. God help him, he meant it. Elena came home an hour later exhausted, but smiling when she saw them at the kitchen table. Sophia ran to her immediately. Mommy, Mr. Bear helped me write my name. Look! Elena took the paper, her eyes welling up at the wobbly letters. That's beautiful, baby. You're getting so good. She looked at Marcus over Sophia's head. Thank you. For everything. It's nothing. It's not nothing. She settled Sophia in front of the TV with a cartoon, then came back to the kitchen, keeping her voice low. Marcus, I don't know how I can ever repay you. The lawyer, the help with Sophia just being here. I've never had anyone do this for me, not even my own family. You don't owe me anything. But I do, and I need you to know, she hesitated. I need you to know that whatever's in your past, I don't care. James told me you might have to testify. that David's lawyers might try to use your history against us. And I just want you to know, it doesn't matter to me. What matters is who you are now, who you've been to us." Marcus looked at her, really looked. This woman who had been through so much, who had every reason to be afraid, to be suspicious, to push people away. Instead, she was standing here offering him grace he didn't deserve. "There are things in my past that could hurt your case," he said quietly. "Bad things. If they find out about them, let them find out." Elena's voice was steady. "You're the first person in years who made me feel like I'm not alone. Sophia adores you. Whatever they throw at us, we'll face it together." Before Marcus could respond, his phone rang. Ray's number. "I have to take this," he said. He stepped outside, closing the door behind him. "Ray, what did you find?" "Bad news, Bear. Those texts you got. They came from a burner phone bought in Jersey City. But I tracked down who bought it." "Who?" "Vincent Donovan. Goes by Viper now." Marcus's blood went cold. Viper. Of all people. Vincent Donovan had been with a rival MC back in Marcus's day. They'd clashed dozens of times. But what made Viper dangerous wasn't his violence, it was his patience, his willingness to wait years for revenge. "There's more," Ray continued. "Viper's been doing freelance work lately. Private investigation intimidation for hire. And guess who his latest client is?" Marcus already knew the answer. "David Vasquez. Got it in one. Elena's ex-husband hired Viper 3 weeks ago, right around the time he filed for custody." Marcus closed his eyes. This was worse than he thought. David wasn't just trying to take Sophia away from Elena. He was trying to destroy everyone who stood in his way. And he'd hired someone who knew exactly how to destroy Marcus. "Bear, you still there?" "Yeah, I'm here." "What are you going to do?" Marcus looked back at Elena's apartment. Through the window, he could see her sitting with Sophia reading a book together. 2 people who trusted him. 2 people who needed him. "I'm going to finish what I started," Marcus said. "And if Viper wants a war, he's going to get one." He hung up and stood in the darkness for a long moment. The past he'd tried so hard to bury was coming back. And it was coming for everyone he'd learned to love. But Marcus Sullivan wasn't the same man he'd been in Phoenix. He wasn't the enforcer, the monster, the man who solved problems with his fists. He was something different now, something better. And he would protect Elena and Sophia with his last breath. Even if it meant facing every demon from his past. Even if it meant losing everything. He walked back inside, his face calm, revealing nothing of the storm raging inside him. "Everything okay?" Elena asked. Marcus looked at her, at Sophia snuggled against her mother's side, fighting sleep. "Everything's fine," he said. "Just fine." But nothing was fine. And soon nothing would ever be the same. The week before the custody hearing felt like waiting for a hurricane. Marcus could feel it coming, that pressure in the air, that stillness before everything exploded. Viper made his move on a Tuesday. Marcus was closing up his shop when he heard the rumble of a motorcycle outside. Not a customer, he knew that engine sound. It was a warning. He walked outside and found Viper leaning against a black Harley arms crossed, that snake tattoo coiling up his neck exactly as Marcus remembered. "Been a long time, Bear." "Not long enough." Viper smiled, and it was the kind of smile that made Marcus's hands curl into fists. "Heard you're playing house with some single mom and her kid. That's cute. Real cute." "Get to the point, Viper. What do you want?" "Me, I don't want anything. I'm just the messenger." Viper pushed off his bike and took a step closer. "My client, on the other hand, he wants you gone. Walk away from the Vasquez woman. Forget you ever met her. Do that, and your past stays buried. And if I don't, Viper's smile widened. Then I start talking. To the lawyers. To the judge. To anyone who'll listen. Phoenix, Albuquerque. That thing in Nevada you think nobody knows about. He tilted his head. You really want that little girl to find out what kind of monster's been reading her bedtime stories? Marcus felt the old rage rising, that familiar heat in his chest that used to lead to violence. For a moment, just a moment, he let himself imagine what it would feel like to put Viper through the wall of his shop. But then he thought of Sophia, of Elena, of everything he was fighting for. Tell your client something for me, Marcus said, his voice deadly quiet. Tell him I don't scare that easy. And tell him when this is over, when that little girl is safe with her mother where she belongs, I'm coming for him. Legally. Completely. Every dirty thing he's ever done I'm going to drag into the light. Viper laughed. Big talk from a man with so much to hide. Maybe. But I've spent 5 years learning how to live with my past. Your client, he's still running from his. We'll see who breaks first. Marcus turned and walked back into his shop. He didn't look back. He didn't need to, but his hands were shaking as he locked the door. That night Marcus couldn't sleep. He sat in the darkness of his apartment holding his phone, staring at a number he hadn't called in years. His sister. Sarah. They hadn't spoken since their falling out back when Marcus was still deep in the MC life. She'd begged him to get out, and he'd said terrible things. Called her weak. Said she didn't understand loyalty. Then she'd walked away, and he'd let her go. He dialed before he could talk himself out of it. 4 rings. 5. He was about to hang up when, "Hello!" Her voice hit him like a punch. Same as he remembered, just older. Tired. "Sarah, it's Marcus." Silence. He could hear her breathing on the other end. Marcus. She said his name like she was testing it, making sure it was real. "It's 2 a.m. I know. I'm sorry. He stopped, not sure how to continue. "I needed to hear your voice." More silence. Then, "Are you in trouble?" "No. Yes. I don't know." He ran a hand over his face. "I'm trying to help someone. A woman and her little girl. They're in a bad situation, and I've been helping them. And now my past is coming back. Everything I did. Everything I was. And you called me because I need to know if people can really change. If a man like me, if someone who did the things I did can actually become something different. Or if I'm just fooling myself." Sarah was quiet for so long that Marcus thought she'd hung up. Then he heard her take a shaky breath. "Do you remember what you said to me the last time we talked? You called me a traitor. You said blood meant nothing to you if I couldn't accept your life." "I remember." Those words broke something in me, Marcus. It took years to put myself back together. Marcus closed his eyes. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." "I know." Her voice softened. "I knew you would be eventually. That's why I never changed my number." "Sarah, listen to me," she interrupted. "You asked if people can change. Here's what I know the man who said those things to me. That man never would have called at 2 a.m. asking for forgiveness. That man never would have helped a stranger in a mall. That man never would have questioned whether he was worthy of being someone's hero." She paused. "So yes, Marcus, people can change. You've already proven it. The question is whether you can forgive yourself." Marcus felt something crack inside him. Something that had been frozen for years. "I don't know if I can." "Then start with what you can do. Protect that woman and her daughter. Face whatever's coming. And when it's over, call me again. I'd like to meet my brother, the real one." After he hung up, Marcus sat in the darkness for a long time. But something had shifted. The weight on his shoulders felt different, not lighter exactly, but more bearable, like maybe he could carry it after all. 3 days before the hearing, James Chen called with bad news. "They found it," James said without preamble. "David's lawyers. They've subpoenaed records from Phoenix. Police reports, witness statements, everything." Marcus's grip on the phone tightened. "How much? Enough. They're going to paint you as a violent criminal. They're going to argue that Elena has shown poor judgment by allowing you near Sophia. Can we fight it? We can try. But Marcus, you need to tell me everything. Right now. No more secrets. If I'm going to defend you on that stand, I need to know exactly what they're going to throw at you." So Marcus told him. All of it. Phoenix, the rival MC member who'd hurt one of their own. The retaliation Marcus had led. The hospital stays, the broken bones, the charges that had been mysteriously dropped. Albuquerque, the drug run that went wrong. The violence that followed. The man who'd died. Nevada, the night Marcus still couldn't think about without feeling sick. When he finished, James was silent for a long moment. "Well," James said finally, "that's certainly a lot. Too much. I've defended worse. The question is whether we can frame it properly. You were young, you were in a bad environment, and you've completely turned your life around. That's a powerful narrative if we tell it right. And if we don't, then Elena loses her daughter and you lose everything." No pressure. Marcus thought bitterly. No pressure at all. The night before the hearing, Marcus did something he hadn't done in years. He went to church. Not for Mass, it was too late for that. He just sat in the empty pews, staring at the altar, trying to find words for a prayer he didn't know how to say. "Didn't expect to see you here." Marcus turned. Father Michael, the old priest who'd known him since he was a boy, was walking down the aisle. "Didn't expect to be here." Father Michael sat down next to him, joints creaking. "I heard you've been helping that young woman with her custody case. The whole neighborhood is talking about it." "Great. That's exactly what I need." "They're saying good things, Marcus. They're saying you've changed, that the man who used to terrify everyone has become someone people trust." The priest studied him. "Is it true?" Marcus stared at his hands, the scarred knuckles, the calluses, the tattoos that told stories of violence. "I'm trying. Every day I'm trying to be different. But tomorrow, all the old stuff comes back. Everything I did, everything I was, it's going to be laid out in a courtroom for everyone to see. And you're afraid. I'm afraid I'm going to destroy the people I'm trying to protect." Father Michael nodded slowly. "Do you know what redemption really means, Marcus? It's not about erasing the past. The past is written, it can't be changed. Redemption is about what we do with the pain we've caused. It's about taking this darkness we've created and using it to bring light. I don't know if I have any light left. A little girl walked up to you in a mall because she saw something in you that made her feel safe. A mother trusted you with her child's life. That's light, Marcus. That's more light than most people ever find." Marcus felt his throat tighten. "What if it's not enough? Then you do what you can and leave the rest to God." Father Michael placed a gentle hand on Marcus's shoulder. "Go home, get some sleep, and tomorrow tell the truth, all of it. The truth has a power that lies can never match." Marcus stayed in the church for another hour. He didn't pray, not really, but he thought about the man he used to be, about the man he was trying to become, about the gap between them that sometimes felt impossibly wide. When he finally left, the night air was cold on his face. But inside, something was burning steady and fierce. Tomorrow, he would face his past. And whatever happened, he would face it standing up. The courtroom was smaller than Marcus expected. Wood panels, fluorescent lights, that particular hush that comes when important things are about to happen. Elena sat rigid in her chair, her hands clasped so tightly her knuckles were white. James Chen was beside her, reviewing notes, his face calm, but focused. And across the aisle, David Vasquez. Marcus had never met Elena's ex-husband before. He studied him now, expensive suit, perfect hair, the kind of confident posture that came from years of getting exactly what he wanted. David caught him looking and smiled a cold, triumphant smile that made Marcus's blood boil. "All rise." Judge Catherine Winters entered. She was in her 60s, gray hair pulled back severely, glasses perched on her nose. Her expression gave nothing away. "Be seated. We're here today for the matter of Vasquez versus Vasquez regarding custody of the minor child, Sofia Vasquez." She looked at both tables. "Let's proceed." David's lawyer went first. Richard Preston, senior partner at Preston, and Whitmore, silver-haired and smooth as oil. "Your Honor, my client simply wants what's best for his daughter. Since the dissolution of his marriage, he has watched from afar as Sofia has been subjected to unstable living conditions, inadequate supervision, and most concerningly, exposure to dangerous individuals." Marcus felt Elena flinch beside him. "Mr. Vasquez has the resources to provide Sofia with everything she needs. A stable home, quality education, a safe environment." Preston paused for effect. Ms. Vasquez, despite her best intentions, simply cannot offer the same. The morning session was brutal. David took the stand first, and he was good, Marcus had to admit that. Charming, sympathetic, the picture of a concerned father who only wanted what was best for his child. "I never wanted this to go to court," David said, his voice catching perfectly. "I just want to be part of my daughter's life. I've made mistakes, I admit that. But I've changed. I've grown. And I believe with all my heart that Sofia deserves the best opportunities life can offer." Marcus watched the judge. Her expression remained neutral, but she was listening. Really listening. Then came the attack on Elena. "Ms. Vasquez has been unemployed multiple times in the past 2 years. Preston said. "She's lived in 3 different apartments. Her childcare arrangements have been inconsistent at best." He held up a document. "And most recently she left her 5-year-old daughter unsupervised in a public mall where the child approached a complete stranger for help." Elena's lawyer objected, but the damage was done. Marcus could see the judge making notes. Then Preston turned his attention to Marcus. "Your Honor, we'd like to address the matter of one Theodore Marcus Sullivan, who has been spending considerable time with the minor child." The courtroom seemed to get smaller. Marcus felt every eye turned toward him. Preston produced a thick folder. "Mr. Sullivan is a former member of the Iron Brotherhood Motorcycle Club, an organization with known ties to organized crime. He has multiple arrests on his record, including assault battery and—" Preston paused dramatically, involvement in an incident in Phoenix, Arizona, that left 3 men hospitalized. Elena grabbed Marcus's hand under the table. He could feel her trembling. "Your Honor, we have witness statements, police reports, and medical records that document Mr. Sullivan's violent history. Is this really the kind of man who should be around a vulnerable 5-year-old child?" The judge looked at Marcus. Her expression was unreadable, but something in her eyes made him feel exposed, seen. "Mr. Chen," Judge Winters said, "does your client wish to respond?" James stood. Your Honor, we absolutely intend to address these allegations, but we'd like to reserve our response for our own presentation, during which Mr. Sullivan himself will take the stand. Very well. We'll break for lunch and reconvene at 2 o'clock. During the break, Elena couldn't eat. She just stared at the sandwich Marcus had bought her, her hands still shaking. It's over, she whispered. Did you see the judge's face when they talked about Phoenix? She thinks you're a monster. She thinks I'm an idiot for trusting you. She's going to take Sophia away. Elena, look at me. She raised her eyes. Tears were streaming down her face. It's not over. We haven't even told our side yet. James is good, really good, and the truth is on our side. The truth is that you have a violent past. The truth is that I'm barely surviving. The truth is that you love your daughter more than anything in this world. The truth is that you've fought every single day to give her a better life. The truth is that Sophia is happy, healthy, and loved, and that's what matters. Elena wiped her eyes. Do you really believe that I have to, and so do you? 2 o'clock came too fast. Marcus took the stand. The Bible was cold against his palm as he swore to tell the truth. James started gently establishing Marcus's background, his business, his community involvement, his 5 years of clean living. Then he asked the question Marcus had been dreading. Mr. Sullivan, please tell the court about your past, in your own words. Marcus took a deep breath. He looked at Elena, at the judge, at David's smug face across the courtroom. Then he started talking. I spent 20 years as a member of the Iron Brotherhood Motorcycle Club. I did things I'm not proud of. I hurt people. I was the man everyone was afraid of, and I liked it that way. He paused. Everything Mr. Preston said about Phoenix is true. I led a retaliation against a rival club. Men went to the hospital because of me. He heard Elena gasp softly. But what Mr. Preston didn't tell you is why I left. 5 years ago, I looked in the mirror and didn't recognize the man staring back at me. I saw a monster, someone who had become everything he'd once despised. And I made a choice, the hardest choice of my life. I walked away. Marcus's voice grew stronger. Since then, I've built a legitimate business. I pay my taxes. I mentor kids who remind me of myself, kids who are on the edge of making the same mistakes I made. I'm not perfect. I never will be. But I'm trying every single day to be better than I was. And how did you come to know Ms. Vasquez and her daughter? Marcus looked directly at the judge. A little girl came up to me in a mall. She was crying because her mother was in distress and no one would help them. Everyone else in that building took one look at me and ran the other way. But this 5-year-old child, she saw something different. She saw someone who might help her, and she was brave enough to ask. His voice caught. That's who Sophia is. That's the child Elena Vasquez has raised. A little girl who's brave and kind and trusting even when she has every reason not to be. That's not the product of an unfit mother. That's the product of love. Preston stood for cross-examination, his eyes gleaming. Mr. Sullivan, you speak eloquently about change and redemption. But let me ask you directly, did you or did you not hospitalize 3 men in Phoenix? I did. Did you or did you not participate in activities that would be considered criminal by any definition? I did. And you expect this court to believe that such a man with blood on his hands, should be trusted around a 5-year-old girl? Marcus met Preston's eyes steadily. I expect this court to believe that people can change. I expect this court to look at the evidence not of who I was, but of who I am. And I expect this court to see what Sophia sees, a man who would do anything to protect her and her mother. How touching. Preston's voice dripped sarcasm. But actions speak louder than words, don't they? And your actions. My actions for the past 5 years have been blameless. My actions since meeting Elena and Sophia have been nothing but supportive. If you want to judge me on who I was 20 years ago, go ahead. But then you'd better be prepared to judge everyone in this room by the worst moment of their lives." The courtroom went silent. Preston opened his mouth to respond, but Judge Winters held up her hand. "I've heard enough on this point. Mr. Preston, move on or sit down." Something shifted in the room. Marcus couldn't be sure, but he thought he saw the ghost of respect in the judge's eyes. The afternoon session belonged to Elena's side. Character witnesses spoke about her dedication to Sophia. Teachers testified about Sophia's progress in school. Mrs. Patterson, the elderly neighbor who helped with childcare, broke down crying as she described watching Elena work double shifts just to keep food on the table. And then came the child advocate's report. Marcus held his breath as the advocate, a gentlewoman named Dr. Sarah Mitchell, took the stand. "I interviewed Sophia Vasquez privately, as is standard procedure in custody cases involving young children," Dr. Mitchell said. "I asked her about her living situation, her relationship with both parents, and her feelings about potentially living with her father." "And what were your findings?" "Sophia is a remarkably well-adjusted child. She speaks about her mother with obvious love and admiration. She feels safe, supported, and happy in her current home." Dr. Mitchell paused. When I asked about her father, however, her demeanor changed significantly. She became withdrawn, anxious. She described memories of loud yelling and said that, "Daddy's house is scary." David's face went red. David's face. He leaned over to whisper furiously to Preston. "And when you asked Sophia where she wanted to live, she said, and I'm quoting directly, 'with Mommy and Mr. Bear. Mommy's house has love.'" The courtroom erupted. David shot to his feet, shouting objections. Judge Winters banged her gavel. "Order Mr. Vasquez sit down immediately, or I will hold you in contempt." But David couldn't stop himself. "This is ridiculous. That child has been coached. She's been turned against me by that woman and her criminal boyfriend. Mr. Vasquez, I'm warning you. She's my daughter mine, and I will not let some washed-up biker and a failed waitress steal her from me." The mask had slipped. The charming, sympathetic father was gone, replaced by something ugly, something true. Judge Winters' expression hardened into stone. "Mr. Preston, control your client. We will take a 30-minute recess." She stood. "And Mr. Vasquez, when we return, I expect you to conduct yourself with appropriate decorum, or you will watch the remainder of these proceedings from a holding cell." Elena was crying, but this time there was hope mixed with the tears. Marcus squeezed her hand under the table. David's outburst had shown the judge exactly who he really was. The hurricane was finally turning in their favor. The 30-minute recess felt like hours. Elena paced the hallway outside the courtroom, her heels clicking against the floor in an anxious rhythm. "Did you see his face?" she whispered to Marcus. "Did you see what happened?" "I saw." "He lost control, in front of the judge. He called you a criminal. He called me a failed waitress." Her voice cracked. "That's who he really is. That's who I was married to." Marcus stopped her pacing with a gentle hand on her shoulder. And now the judge saw it too. James Chen approached them, his expression carefully neutral. "We need to talk strategy for when we go back in." "What's left to say?" Elena asked. "David just destroyed himself in there." "Maybe. But Preston is good. He's going to try to spin this. He'll say David was provoked, that he was a passionate father pushed too far by unfair accusations." James looked at Marcus. "And he's going to come after you again. Hard. Let him." "Marcus, I said let him. I've got nothing left to hide. Everything I did is already on the table. The only thing I can do now is tell the truth, and hope it's enough." Elena grabbed his hand. "It will be. It has to be." The bailiff called them back inside. David was already seated, his face composed again, that mask of charm firmly in place. But Marcus could see the cracks now, the rage simmering just beneath the surface. Judge Winters returned to the bench. Her expression was unreadable, but there was something different in the way she looked at David. Something cold. "Before we proceed," she said, "I want to address what happened before the recess. Mr. Vasquez, your outburst was completely unacceptable. In my courtroom, we conduct ourselves with dignity and respect regardless of how we feel about the testimony being presented." "I apologize, Your Honor." David's voice was smooth, contrite. "I was overcome with emotion. The thought of losing my daughter." "Save it." The judge's voice cut like a blade. "I've been doing this for 30 years, Mr. Vasquez. I know the difference between genuine emotion and performance." David's jaw tightened. Preston placed a warning hand on his arm. "Now," Judge Winters continued, "I believe we were in the middle of testimony from the child advocate. Dr. Mitchell, do you have anything to add?" Dr. Mitchell returned to the stand. "Just one thing, Your Honor. In my professional assessment, Sofia Vasquez has formed a strong attachment to Mr. Sullivan. When I asked her about him, her entire demeanor changed. She became animated, happy. She said, and again I'm quoting, 'Mr. Bear makes Mommy smile. He makes me feel safe.'" Marcus felt his throat tighten. That little girl, that brave, wonderful little girl. "In your professional opinion," James asked, "does Sofia's attachment to Mr. Sullivan pose any risk to her well-being?" "On the contrary, children who have experienced trauma, as Sofia clearly has often struggled to form healthy attachments. The fact that she trusts Mr. Sullivan so completely suggests that he has provided her with exactly the kind of stability and security she needs." Preston stood. "Your Honor, I must object. The witness is speculating about trauma that has not been established." "The trauma has been established, Mr. Preston." Judge Winters' voice was ice. "I have police reports, hospital records, and witness statements documenting the domestic violence in the Vasquez marriage. The only question is whether you've actually read them." The color drained from Preston's face. "Your Honor, I—" "Sit down, Mr. Preston. I've heard enough from your side." The courtroom went silent. Marcus could hardly breathe. Was this it? Was it finally over? Judge Winters removed her glasses and rubbed her eyes. When she looked up again, her expression had softened slightly. "I've presided over many custody cases in my career. Most of them are heartbreaking. Parents fighting over children like their property, using the courts as weapons against each other." She paused. "This case is different." Elena's hand found Marcus's under the table. "On one side, I have a father with financial resources, a stable home, and an expensive legal team. On paper, he looks like the obvious choice." Judge Winters' gaze shifted to David. "But I've learned to look beyond paper. I've learned to watch how people behave when they think no one's paying attention. And I've learned to listen to the children." She turned to Elena. "On the other side, I have a mother who has struggled, who has faced poverty, job loss, and the aftermath of domestic abuse, who has made difficult choices and asked for help from unconventional sources." Her eyes moved to Marcus. "But I also see a woman who has never stopped fighting for her daughter, who has built a support system out of nothing, who has raised a child brave enough to ask a stranger for help when she needed it." Marcus felt tears burning in his eyes. He blinked them back. "Mr. Sullivan," the judge continued, "your past concerns me. I won't pretend it doesn't. But I've also seen your present. I've seen the character witnesses who spoke on your behalf. I've seen the way Sofia's face lights up when she talks about you. And I've seen something that doesn't show up in police reports. I've seen a man trying to become better." She leaned forward. "That matters to me. Redemption matters. The capacity for change matters. And from everything I've observed, you have demonstrated both." David was shaking now. Marcus could see his hands trembling, his jaw clenching and unclenching. Therefore, Judge Winters announced, "It is the ruling of this court that full custody of Sofia Vasquez be awarded to her mother, Elena Vasquez." Elena let out a sob. Her hand crushed Marcus's so hard it hurt. "Mr. Vasquez will be granted supervised visitation rights to be reviewed in 6 months, pending completion of a court-mandated anger management program." The judge's voice hardened. "And Mr. Vasquez, I am also referring this case to the district attorney's office for review. The evidence of domestic abuse presented here is substantial, and I believe it warrants further investigation." David shot to his feet. "You can't do this. She's my daughter. I have rights." "Mr. Vasquez, sit down. This is a setup. This whole thing is a setup. That criminal—" He pointed at Marcus, his face twisted with rage. "He's turned everyone against me. He's— Bailiff!" 2 officers moved toward David. Preston tried to intervene, but David shoved him aside. "You'll regret this!" David screamed at Elena. "All of you, I'll appeal. I'll take this to the Supreme Court if I have to. You haven't seen the last of me." The bailiffs grabbed his arms. David struggled, still shouting, as they dragged him toward a side door. "Get your hands off me. I'm a businessman. I have connections. You can't—" The door slammed shut behind him, cutting off his threats. Judge Winters sighed heavily. "Well, that certainly clarified any remaining doubts I might have had." She looked at Elena. "Ms. Vasquez, take your daughter home. Give her the life she deserves." "Thank you, Your Honor." Elena's voice was barely a whisper. "Thank you so much." "Don't thank me. Thank yourself. You fought for your child when it would have been easier to give up. That's what good mothers do." The judge's eyes moved to Marcus. "And Mr. Sullivan, whatever you were before, you're something different now. Don't waste it." Marcus nodded, not trusting himself to speak. "Court is adjourned." The gavel came down, and it was over. Outside the courthouse, Elena collapsed into Marcus's arms. She was crying so hard she could barely stand, her whole body shaking with relief. "It's over," she kept saying. "It's over. It's over." Marcus held her, his own eyes wet. "You did it, Elena. You won." "We won." She pulled back to look at him. "We won, Marcus. I couldn't have done this without you." Before he could respond, a car pulled up to the curb. Mrs. Patterson was driving, and in the back seat, "Mommy, Mommy!" Sophia burst out of the car before it had fully stopped. She ran toward them, her pigtails flying, her face bright with hope. "Did we win, Mommy? Did the judge say I can stay with you?" Elena dropped to her knees and caught Sophia in her arms. "Yes, baby, yes, you're staying with me forever. Forever, ever, forever, ever." Sophia squeezed her mother tight. Then she looked up at Marcus with those big brown eyes. "Mr. Bear, are you staying too?" Marcus felt something break open inside him, something he'd kept locked away for years. He knelt down next to them, his massive frame somehow not intimidating at all in this moment. "If your mom wants me around," he said, "then yeah, I'm staying." Elena laughed through her tears. "I think we want you around." Sophia threw her arms around Marcus's neck. "I love you, Mr. Bear." The words hit him like a wave. For a moment he couldn't breathe, couldn't think. All he could do was hold this little girl who had somehow, against all odds, seen something good in him. "I love you too, Sophia," he whispered. "I love you too." They stayed like that for a long time, the 3 of them holding each other in front of the courthouse while the world went on around them. People walked past, cars drove by. Life continued. But for Marcus, everything had changed. That night, Elena made dinner at her apartment. Nothing fancy, just pasta with sauce from a jar and garlic bread that was slightly burned on the edges. But to Marcus, it was the best meal he'd ever had. Sophia chattered through the whole thing, talking about school, about her friend Maria, about the picture she was going to draw of the courthouse, and the nice judge lady. "And then I'm going to draw Mr. Bear," she announced, "with his angel wings, because he saved us." Marcus shook his head. "I didn't save anyone, sweetheart. Your mom did all the hard work." "No, you both saved me." Sophia's voice was matter-of-fact, the way only a 5-year-old's could be. "Mommy saved me from Daddy's yelling, and you saved Mommy when she was sad in the bathroom. That makes you both heroes." Elena met Marcus's eyes across the table. Something passed between them, something that didn't need words. After dinner, Sophia fell asleep on the couch, her stuffed elephant tucked under her chin. Elena covered her with a blanket, and then joined Marcus in the kitchen. "Coffee?" "Sure." They sat at the small table, the same one Marcus had helped carry up the stairs when Elena moved in. The apartment was quiet, except for Sophia's soft breathing and the hum of the refrigerator. "I called my sister," Marcus said suddenly. Elena looked up from her cup. "You have a sister, Sarah. We haven't spoken in years. I said some terrible things to her back when I was still with the club." He stared at his hands. "But the night before the hearing, I called her. I needed to know if people like me could really change." "What did she say?" "She said I already had." He looked up. "And she said she wanted to meet me, the real me, not the man I used to be." Elena reached across the table and took his hand. "The real you is pretty amazing, Marcus." "I don't know about that." "I do." Her grip tightened. "You gave up everything to help us. Your privacy, your peace, your past, you laid it all out in that courtroom. For me, for Sophia, for people you barely knew." "I knew enough." "Why?" The question was soft, vulnerable. "Why did you help us, really?" Marcus was quiet for a long moment. The answer wasn't simple. It was tangled up in 20 years of violence, 5 years of trying to be better, and 1 moment in a mall when a little girl asked him for help. "Because you needed someone," he finally said. "And for the first time in my life, I wanted to be that someone. Not the enforcer, not the monster, just someone who could help." Elena's eyes glistened. "And now? What do you want now? Now?" He looked toward the living room where Sophia slept peacefully. "Now I want to be worthy of what that little girl sees in me. I want to be the man she thinks I am." "You already are, Marcus." "Not yet. But I'm getting closer." Elena stood up and moved around the table. Before Marcus could react, she wrapped her arms around him, pressing her face into his shoulder. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you for believing in us when no one else would." Marcus held her carefully still, not quite believing this was real. For so long he'd been alone. For so long he'd thought he didn't deserve anything good. But here in this tiny kitchen with a sleeping child in the next room and a woman who trusted him despite everything, he started to believe that maybe, just maybe, he did. A week later, Marcus was at his shop when his phone rang. He recognized the number, James Chen. "James, what's up? We have a problem." Marcus's blood went cold. "What kind of problem?" "David. He made bail last night, and the first thing he did was hire a private investigator." James's voice was grim. "They're not going after the custody ruling anymore. They're going after you personally." "What do you mean?" "He's claiming you intimidated witnesses, tampered with evidence. He's trying to get you charged with obstruction of justice." Marcus sank onto a stool. "That's insane." "I didn't do any of that." "I know, but David has money, and money buys lawyers who don't care about the truth. He's filed a civil suit against you, Marcus. He's claiming emotional distress defamation and a dozen other things that won't hold up in court but will drag you through hell in the meantime. What do? We fight, the same way we fought before. James paused. But Marcus, I have to warn you, this could get ugly, really ugly. David is out for blood. Marcus hung up and sat in the silence of his shop. He thought about Elena, about Sophia, about the peaceful night they'd shared just a week ago. David wasn't going to stop. He'd lost the custody battle, but he wasn't going to accept defeat. He was going to keep coming, keep attacking until he destroyed everything Marcus had built. Unless Marcus stopped him first. He pulled out his phone and dialed Ray's number. Ray, it's Marcus. I need another favor. What kind of favor? David Vasquez, Elena's ex. He's coming after me now, trying to bury me in lawsuits. Marcus's jaw tightened. I need everything you can find on him. Business dealings, financial records, anything that might be shady. You think there's something there? A man like David doesn't get rich without cutting corners. He's got skeletons. I just need to find them. Ray was quiet for a moment. This isn't like you, Bear, going on the offensive. I'm not doing this for me. I'm doing it for them. Elena and Sophia. They deserve to be free of him, really free, not looking over their shoulders for the rest of their lives. Okay, I'll see what I can dig up. Thanks, Ray. Bear, be careful. Men like David, they don't go down easy. And when they're cornered, they're dangerous. Marcus knew that better than anyone. He'd been a dangerous man himself once. He knew what desperation could drive a person to do. But he also knew something else. He wasn't going to let David hurt Elena and Sophia, no matter what it cost him. 3 days later, Ray called back with news that changed everything. You were right, Ray said. David's dirty, really dirty. How dirty? Tax evasion for starters. He's been hiding money in offshore accounts for years, but that's just the beginning. Ray took a breath. He's also got a history of harassment complaints from female employees. All of them settled quietly with NDAs. And here's the kicker, one of his real estate developments from 2018. Built with substandard materials. A family got injured when a balcony collapsed. He paid them off to keep it out of court. Marcus's grip on the phone tightened. You have proof. Documents, witness statements, the works. Someone he screwed over kept copies of everything. They've been waiting for the right moment to use it. Who? His former business partner, a woman named Helen Torres. David cheated her out of $2 million in a development deal. She's been building a case against him for 3 years. Ray paused. She's very interested in meeting you. Marcus hung up and stared at the wall of his shop. The game had just changed. David thought he was untouchable. He thought his money and his lawyers made him invincible. He was about to learn how wrong he was. Marcus called Elena that night. I need to tell you something. Her voice was immediately worried. What's wrong? Is it David? Yes and no. He took a breath. He's not going to stop coming after us. After me. He's filed lawsuits trying to bury me. Elena's breath caught. Oh God. Marcus, I'm so sorry. This is all my fault. If you hadn't helped us, stop. This is not your fault. This is David being David. He paused. But I'm not going to sit back and let him keep attacking. I've found things, Elena. Things about his business dealings. Things that could put him away for a long time. Silence on the other end. Elena, I'm here. Her voice was strange. Tight. What kind of things? Financial crimes, harassment, a cover-up that got people hurt. Marcus's voice hardened. He's not the respectable businessman he pretends to be. He's a fraud and a criminal. And I can prove it. More silence. Then, what are you going to do? There's a woman who used to be his business partner. He cheated her out of millions. She's been building a case against him. I'm going to meet with her." He paused. "And then I'm going to help her take him down." Elena was quiet for a long time. When she spoke again, her voice was thick with emotion. "I spent years being afraid of him, years thinking he was too powerful, too connected, too untouchable. I convinced myself that leaving was the most I could ever do, that I just had to survive and hope he'd leave us alone. You don't have to be afraid anymore." "I know." Her voice strengthened. "Do it, Marcus. Whatever you have to do. Take him down." "You sure this could get messy? It could mean more attention, more scrutiny. It could affect Sophia. Sophia deserves a world where men like David don't get to keep hurting people." Elena's voice was fierce now. "And so do I. So do all the women he's harassed, all the people he's cheated, all the families he's put at risk with his greed." Marcus felt something settle in his chest. This was right. He knew it in his bones. "Okay," he said. "Then let's finish this." 2 days later, Marcus sat across from Helen Torres in a coffee shop. She was in her 50s, sharp-eyed and composed, with the look of someone who had been waiting a long time for justice. "So you're the biker who took on David Vasquez," she said, studying him. "I've been following the custody case. You made quite an impression on that judge." "I just told the truth." "The truth." Helen smiled bitterly. "David spent his whole life burying the truth. It's refreshing to meet someone willing to dig it up." She slid a folder across the table. Marcus opened it and began to read. What he found made his blood boil. Financial statements showing hidden accounts, emails discussing bribes to building inspectors, photos of the collapsed balcony and the family it had injured. "This is enough to put him away for years," Marcus said. "I know, but I needed a partner, someone willing to take the risk of going public." Helen's eyes met his. "David has friends everywhere. Police prosecutors, politicians, anyone I approached could be on his payroll. So why trust me? Because you've already proven you can't be bought." She nodded toward the folder. "And because you have something to fight for. That woman and her daughter, David hurt them too. He's still trying to hurt them." Marcus closed the folder. "What do you need from me?" "Help me get this to the right people. The FBI has a financial crimes unit that David hasn't been able to corrupt. I have a contact there, but I need someone to corroborate my evidence, someone with credibility. I'm an ex-biker with a criminal record. I don't have much credibility. You have the credibility of a man who faced his past in open court and owned every bit of it." Helen leaned forward. "That took courage, Mr. Sullivan. More courage than most people ever show. The FBI will see that." Marcus thought about Elena, about Sophia, about the man he was trying to become. "Okay," he said. "I'm in." Helen smiled, a real smile this time. "Good, because David Vasquez's empire is about to come crashing down, and you're going to help me make it happen." The meeting with the FBI took place 2 weeks later. Marcus sat in a sterile conference room with Helen Torres on one side and Special Agent Catherine Rhodes on the other. Agent Rhodes was sharp, methodical, the kind of person who didn't waste time on small talk. She'd spent an hour reviewing Helen's documents, asking questions, making notes. Now she looked at Marcus. "Mr. Sullivan, I'm going to be direct with you. Your background gives me pause." "I understand. However," she continued, "your willingness to testify in the custody case, knowing your past would be exposed, speaks to your character. It takes a certain kind of courage to face that kind of scrutiny voluntarily." "I didn't have a choice. Elena and Sophia needed help." "Everyone has a choice." Agent Rhodes closed her folder. "Here's where we stand. The evidence Mrs. Torres has provided is substantial. Combined with what we've already been gathering on David Vasquez's financial activities, we have enough to move forward with an investigation." Helen leaned forward. "How long?" "These things take time, Months, possibly longer. We need to build an airtight case, one that even his expensive lawyers can't wriggle out of. Marcus felt frustration rising. And what happens to Elena and Sophia in the meantime? David is still out there. He's still filing lawsuits. He's still a threat. Agent Rhodes met his gaze steadily. I can't make promises, Mr. Sullivan, but I can tell you this: men like David Vasquez always make mistakes. The more desperate they get, the bigger those mistakes become. We just need to be ready when he makes his. That night, Marcus told Elena everything. They sat in her kitchen after Sophia had gone to bed. Elena listened without interrupting, her face cycling through shock, anger, and finally something that looked like hope. The FBI, she whispered when he finished. They're actually investigating him. It's going to take time. But yes, they're building a case. Elena's hands trembled as she reached for her coffee cup. All these years I thought he was untouchable. I thought no one would ever see through him. Everyone gets seen eventually. The truth has a way of coming out. You really believe that? Marcus thought about his own past, about the secrets he'd carried for so long, the sins he'd tried to bury, and about how facing them in that courtroom had set him free. Yeah, he said. I really do. 3 months passed, then 4, then 6. The FBI investigation moved slowly, but it moved. Witnesses were interviewed. Documents were subpoenaed. David's business partners began distancing themselves, sensing the storm that was coming. Meanwhile, life went on. Marcus became a regular fixture in Elena and Sophia's lives. Sunday dinners became tradition. He helped Sophia with her homework, taught her how to change a tire, listened to her endless stories about school and friends, and the adventures of her stuffed elephant. Elena got a promotion at work. She was now the administrative coordinator for the entire department, with a salary that let her breathe for the first time in years. She even started saving for Sophia's college fund. And Marcus was changing too. He'd started mentoring kids from his old neighborhood, teenagers who reminded him of himself at that age, angry, lost, looking for somewhere to belong. He showed them his shop, taught them about motorcycles, tried to give them a path that didn't lead where his had led. One of them, a 16-year-old named Devon, asked him a question one afternoon. You used to be in a gang, right? Marcus set down his wrench. A motorcycle club, but yeah, something like that. How'd you get out? Marcus was quiet for a moment. The answer wasn't simple. It never was. I met someone who needed help, he finally said. And helping them made me want to be better. It's not more complicated than that. Devon nodded slowly. You think I could do that, be better? I think anyone can kid, if they want it bad enough. The call came on a Tuesday morning. Marcus was at his shop when his phone rang. Agent Rhodes. We're moving on Vasquez today, she said without preamble. Arrest warrants are being executed as we speak. I thought you'd want to know. Marcus's grip tightened on the phone. What are the charges? Tax evasion, fraud, witness tampering, and here's the big one, reckless endangerment for that construction cover-up. The family that was injured has agreed to cooperate. How long is he looking at? If we get convictions on everything, 15 to 20 years. Marcus closed his eyes. 15 to 20 years. After everything David had done to Elena, to Sophia, to who knew how many other people, justice was finally coming. Thank you, he said, for everything. Don't thank me, Mr. Sullivan. Thank the women who had the courage to come forward, and thank yourself for standing by them. Marcus hung up and sat in the silence of his shop for a long time. Then he called Elena. She answered on the first ring. Marcus, what's wrong? Nothing's wrong. He took a breath. They're arresting David. Right now. It's over, Elena. It's really over. The silence on the other end stretched for so long that Marcus thought the call had dropped. "Elena, you still there?" A sound came through the phone, something between a sob and a laugh. "I'm here. I'm just—" Her voice broke completely. "I never thought this day would come. I never thought—" "It's okay. You don't have to say anything." "I have to say something." She was crying openly now. "I have to say thank you for believing me, for fighting for us, for not giving up even when everything was falling apart. You fought harder than anyone, Elena. All I did was stand beside you. That was everything, Marcus. That was everything." The news broke that evening. Every local channel led with the story prominent real estate developer David Vasquez arrested on multiple federal charges. His mugshot was everywhere, that handsome, confident face finally showing fear. Sophia was confused by all the attention. She didn't understand why Mommy was crying or why Mr. Bear kept hugging them both. "Is something bad happening?" she asked, clutching her elephant. Elena knelt down and took her daughter's hands. "No, baby. Something good is happening. Something really, really good." "What?" Elena looked at Marcus, then back at Sophia. "You know how there are bad guys in the stories we read, and how the good guys always beat them in the end?" Sophia nodded. "Well, a bad guy who hurt our family just got caught, and now he can't hurt us anymore. Ever again." Sophia's eyes went wide. "Like in the superhero movies. Exactly like that. And Mr. Bear helped catch him." Marcus shook his head. "Lots of people helped, sweetheart. Your mom was the bravest of all. She never gave up even when things were really hard." Sophia looked at her mother with something like awe. "Mommy's a superhero." Elena laughed through her tears. "I don't know about that." "You are," Sophia insisted. "You're the bravest superhero ever, and Mr. Bear is your sidekick." Marcus felt a laugh rumble in his chest. Sidekick. I can live with that. The weeks that followed were surreal. David's arrest opened floodgates. More victims came forward, former employees, business partners, even his own family members who had witnessed his abuse. The case against him grew stronger every day. And through it all, Marcus, Elena, and Sophia built their life together. It wasn't always easy. Marcus still had nightmares about Phoenix. Elena still flinched sometimes when a door slammed too hard. Sophia still asked questions about her father that had no good answers. But they faced it together. That was what mattered. One evening, Marcus got a call he never expected. "Marcus, it's Sarah." His sister's voice made him stop mid-step. "Sarah, hey, is everything okay?" "Everything's fine. She hesitated. "I saw the news about the arrest. I figured out who the Elena they keep mentioning is. The woman you helped." "Yeah, that's her. I want to meet her, and her daughter." Sarah's voice was soft. "I want to meet the people who helped my brother find himself again." Marcus felt his throat tighten. I'd like that a lot." The following Sunday, Sarah came to dinner. She was older than Marcus remembered, but her eyes were the same, warm and knowing and quick to tears. When she saw him, she didn't say a word. She just walked into his arms and held on. "I missed you," she whispered. "I missed you so much." "I'm sorry," he said, the words he'd been carrying for years finally breaking free. "For everything I said. For all the years I wasted being angry. For—" "Stop!" She pulled back and cupped his face in her hands. "We're not doing that. We're not living in the past anymore. We're starting fresh. Right now." Elena and Sophia welcomed Sarah like she was family. Because she was family. Just like Marcus had become family. After dinner, Sarah and Marcus sat on the small balcony while Elena put Sophia to bed. "She's remarkable," Sarah said quietly. "Elena, and that little girl, she adores you." "I got lucky, luckier than I deserve." "No," Sarah shook her head firmly. This isn't luck, Marcus. This is what happens when good people find each other. This is what happens when someone decides to be better and actually follows through. Marcus stared at his hands, the same hands that had hurt so many people once upon a time. Sometimes I still can't believe this is my life. Believe it, Sarah's voice was fierce. You earned this, every bit of it. 6 months later, David Vasquez stood trial. The prosecution presented an overwhelming case, documents, witnesses, victims who finally had a chance to tell their stories. Helen Torres took the stand and systematically dismantled every lie David had ever told. And when the verdict came guilty on all counts, the courtroom erupted. Elena was there. She'd insisted on being present for every moment. When the judge read the verdict, she grabbed Marcus's hand and didn't let go. David was sentenced to 18 years in federal prison. As the guards led him away, he turned and looked directly at Elena. His face was twisted with rage, with hatred, with the fury of a man who had finally lost control of everything. Elena met his gaze without flinching. And then she smiled. Not a cruel smile. Not a triumphant smile. Just a small, quiet smile that said, I'm free. You can't hurt me anymore. I'm free. David was the one who looked away first. That night they celebrated. Not with a big party that wasn't Elena's style. Just dinner at home. Elena, Sophia. Marcus, Sarah, Mrs. Patterson from next door, James Chen, even Ray, and a few of Marcus's old friends who had helped along the way. Sophia insisted on making a toast. She stood on her chair holding a glass of apple juice with great solemnity. To Mommy, she announced. The bravest superhero ever. Everyone raised their glasses. To Mr. Bear, Sophia continued. The best sidekick in the whole world. Marcus felt his eyes burn. And to our family, Sophia finished. Because family isn't just the people you're born with. It's the people who love you and never give up. Elena was crying. Sarah was crying. Even Ray looked suspiciously misty-eyed. Marcus stood up and wrapped his arms around both Elena and Sophia. To family, he said, his voice rough with emotion. And to second chances. A year passed. Then 2. Sophia started first grade, then second. She was top of her class in reading and had a best friend named Maria who came over every weekend. The nightmares about her father faded until they stopped entirely. Elena finished her degree, something she'd started before her marriage and never completed. She was promoted twice more and was now the assistant administrator for the entire hospital network. The scared woman crying in a department store bathroom had become a confident, capable professional who knew exactly what she was worth. And Marcus finally became the man he'd always wanted to be. He expanded his shop, hired 3 employees, and started a formal mentorship program for at-risk youth. The local paper did a feature on him, From Biker to Beacon, how one man transformed his life and now helps others do the same. He framed the article and hung it in his office, not because he wanted recognition, but because he wanted the kids he mentored to see proof that change was possible. One afternoon, Sophia came home from school with a project assignment. I have to write about a hero, she explained, someone who inspires me. That's easy, Elena said, looking at Marcus. You have a pretty good candidate right there. But Sophia shook her head. No, Mommy. I'm writing about both of you. You're the best team ever. The next day, Sophia read her essay to the class. Elena and Marcus sat in tiny chairs at the back of the room, feeling ridiculous and proud at the same time. My heroes are my mom and my Mr. Bear, Sophia read aloud. My mom is the bravest person I know. She protected me when things were scary, and taught me that being strong doesn't mean never being afraid. It means being afraid and doing the right thing anyway. Elena grabbed Marcus's hand. My Mr. Bear is big and looks kind of scary, but he's not scary at all. He's the kindest person ever. He came into our lives when we needed help, and he never left. He taught me that people can change if they really want to. And he taught me that family isn't about where you come from. It's about where you belong. Marcus couldn't see anymore. His vision was completely blurred. I used to be scared of the dark, Sophia continued. But now I know that even in the darkest places there are people who carry light. My mom and Mr. Bear carry light, and they gave some of that light to me. And one day I'm going to give it to someone else. The classroom burst into applause. Sophia beamed with pride, and Marcus knew with absolute certainty that everything he'd been through, the violence, the shame, the years of trying to outrun his past, had led him here, to this moment, to this family. That evening after Sophia had gone to bed, Marcus and Elena sat on the couch together. The TV was on, but neither of them was watching it. I've been thinking, Marcus said quietly. About what? He turned to face her. In the soft light, she looked exactly like she had that first day in the mall, except the fear was gone. The exhaustion was gone. She looked peaceful, happy. About us. About what this is. What we are. Elena's breath caught. And I love you, Elena. I've loved you for a long time. I think I started falling for you that day in the mall, when you walked out of that bathroom looking like the world had beaten you down, but you were still standing anyway. Tears spilled down Elena's cheeks. Marcus, I'm not asking for anything. I know I'm not exactly what you planned. A 49-year-old biker with a criminal record isn't exactly Prince Charming. He managed a small smile. But I want you to know. I want you to know that I will spend the rest of my life loving you and Sophia. Whether we're together like this or something more, or whatever you want, I will never leave. I will never stop fighting for you. I will never stop being whatever you need me to be. Elena reached up and touched his face. Her fingers traced the lines around his eyes, the scar on his cheek, the rough stubble of his beard. You know what Sophia said about you that first day? When I asked her why she went to you for help? What? She said you looked like a bear, but a friendly bear, the kind that protects people. Elena smiled through her tears. She was right. She saw who you really were before anyone else did, before even you did. Elena, I love you too, Marcus. I think I've loved you since the moment you sat down outside that bathroom and talked to me like I mattered, like my pain mattered, like I was worth helping. She leaned forward and kissed him, soft, tender, full of everything they'd been through and everything that lay ahead. When they finally pulled apart, Marcus was the one crying. I don't deserve this, he whispered. I don't deserve you. Maybe not. Elena's smile was radiant. But you've got us anyway, and we're not going anywhere. 2 years later, Marcus stood at the front of a small church, his hands trembling for the first time in decades. Sarah was in the front row, dabbing at her eyes. Ray and the guys from the shop were there looking uncomfortable in suits but grinning ear to ear. James Chen sat with his wife, both of them beaming. And then the music started. Elena appeared at the end of the aisle. She was wearing a simple white dress that made her look like an angel. Her eyes were locked on Marcus, and she was smiling that same quiet, peaceful smile she'd worn in the courtroom when David was led away. Sophia walked beside her, holding a small basket of flowers, her face glowing with joy. Marcus felt his heart crack open completely. This was real. This was happening. The scared little girl in the mall, the broken woman in the bathroom, the monster who thought he was beyond redemption, they had all found each other. They had all saved each other. Elena reached him and took his hands. "Hi," she whispered. "Hi," he managed. "You ready for this?" Marcus looked at her, at Sophia standing between them, bouncing with excitement, at all the people who had become their family. "I've been ready my whole life," he said. "I just didn't know it until I met you." The ceremony was simple and perfect. They wrote their own vows. Sophia served as flower girl and ring bearer and kept interrupting with commentary that made everyone laugh. And when the minister pronounced them husband and wife, when Marcus kissed Elena, while Sophia cheered something that had been broken for a very long time, finally became whole. Later at the small reception, Sophia grabbed a microphone. "Can I make another toast?" she asked. Elena laughed. "Since when do you need permission?" Sophia stood on a chair just like she had at that first family dinner years ago. "When I was 5, I got lost in a mall. I was really scared, but I found a man who looked like a bear, and I asked him for help." She grinned at Marcus. "That was the best thing I ever did. Mr. Bear helped us when nobody else would. He showed me that heroes don't always wear capes. Sometimes they wear leather jackets and have lots of tattoos and look kind of scary, but inside they're the softest, kindest people ever." Marcus felt tears streaming down his face. He didn't bother wiping them away. "My mommy and Mr. Bear taught me the most important thing anyone's ever taught me," Sophia continued. "They taught me that you don't have to be perfect to be loved. You don't have to be brave all the time to be strong. And you don't have to come from a good place to end up somewhere beautiful." She raised her glass of apple juice. "To my family. My real family. The one we built together." Everyone raised their glasses. And Marcus understood finally and completely what redemption really meant. It wasn't about erasing the past. The past would always be there, the violence, the mistakes, the darkness. That was part of who he was. But redemption meant something different. It meant taking that darkness and using it to recognize light in others. It meant becoming the kind of person a scared child would trust. It meant earning day by day the love of people who saw his scars and loved him anyway. It meant becoming Mr. Bear. That night after the reception was over and the last guests had gone home, Marcus stood in the living room of their new house, the house they'd bought together, the house where they would build their future. Sophia was asleep upstairs, clutching her stuffed elephant. Elena was beside him, her head resting on his shoulder. "What are you thinking about?" she asked softly. Marcus looked around. At the family photos on the walls, at Sophia's drawings on the refrigerator, at the signs of a life he never thought he'd have. "I'm thinking about that little girl in the mall," he said. "The one who wasn't afraid to ask a monster for help. And I'm thinking about how she saved me. How you both saved me." He turned to face his wife. "I spent 20 years destroying things. Now I'm going to spend the rest of my life building." Elena reached up and touched his face. "You already have, Marcus. Look around you. This is what you've built." He kissed her forehead and held her close. Outside, the stars were coming out. Somewhere in the distance, he could hear the faint rumble of a motorcycle. The sound used to mean danger violence, a life lived in the shadows. Now it just meant home. Marcus Sullivan had spent 48 years running from who he was, but it took one brave little girl to show him who he could become. And in the end, that was the only story that mattered. Not the monster he had been, not the sins he couldn't erase. Just a man who answered when a child asked for help, and found in that single moment of grace everything he'd ever been looking for. Because sometimes the biggest transformations begin with the smallest voices, and sometimes the people who save us are the ones we never expected. Marcus had learned that lesson the hard way, but he had learned it completely. and he would carry it with him for the rest of his life, a light that no darkness could ever extinguish. He was no longer the man people feared. He was the man a little girl trusted. And that made all the difference in the world.